Hello. So for journal number 9, I decided to focus on the question, how does Cohn define the meaning, importance, and existential relevance of spirituals, and how are they related to God? So I'm going to be reading some quotes from the book The Spirituals and the Blues by Cohn. Um, and I want to do that instead of trying to explain it in my own words because I think what he's saying is more important and than anything I could come up with. Like to me, it's and kind of how you said in class, like it's important to. I'm not trying to like dilute his words, I guess. And I think because what he's talking about is not something that I could ever like experience myself, and I don't know. I just want to make sure I'm getting across the right definition. But so it's going to be a little bit of more reading than it is explanation, maybe. But here we go. So. Uh, It is the spirituals that show us the essence of Black religion, and that is the experience of trying to be free in the midst of a powerful lot of tribulation. The spirituals are songs about Black souls, stretching out into the outskirts of God's eternity and affirming that divine reality, which lets you know that you are a human being no matter what white people say. Um, and through the song, Black people were able to affirm that spirit who was continuous with their existence as free beings, and they created a new style of religious worship. So this is kind of just the importance of spirituals is like the affirmation of you are a human being. And so this dates back to obviously I didn't say it, but it dates back to to slavery. And this is, I guess, I'm thinking this is where the spirituals were born. Um, and so they encountered a new reality, a new God, not enshrined in white churches and religious gatherings. And so also something about uh, how God was defined to them by the slaveholders and white people was basically like they God work I guess like worked in favor of like the white people basically and um, condoned slavery and but so this is like a whole new like he said a whole new reality um, this their God God is not how they were told that God is not what the white people were saying. So, um, in reality, they were stretching out on God's word, affirming a newfound experience that could be destroyed by the masters. And then he goes on to say the spirituals enabled Blacks to retain a measure of African identity while living in the midst of American slavery, providing both the substance and the rhythm to cope with with human servitude. In the spirituals, Black slaves combined the memory of their fathers with the Christian gospel and created a style of existence that participated in their liberation from earthly bondage. The spiritual, then, is the spirit of the people struggling to be free. It is their religion, their source of strength in a time of trouble. And so, what this was, I didn't know about this, how um, the songs, what they sang combined both um, religion and also freedom and also um their like ancestors like uh actual um it says to combine the memory of their fathers with the Christian gospel. So like yeah, so I think that's also like the importance and also like the meaning of the spirituals is that is a combination of their two identities, I guess. The Christian God that was like pushed onto them, and then but like again redefining it, but also combining it with what they knew from their ancestors and where they came from and where they were not necessarily where they came from, but where they were stolen from, which is anyways. So and then it goes on. So that's the kind of, I guess, how like the spirituals were born. And then it goes on to talk about like the spirituals today and how he says, trouble is inseparable from the Black religious experience. For what it, for what is a people to do when they are troubled in mind and they don't know where to roam? And then he says, when they are powerless economically and politically, the spiritual is the people's response to societal contradictions. Um, and so that's how it the spirituals live on today, where Black people are still, um, I guess, facing trouble in like the simplest uh, sense. They are they're not so much powerless economically and politically, but they certainly don't have like or I guess they don't have the same advantages. Like they aren't. It was kind of like goes into like white privilege, I guess. Like um, they're at a disadvantage, like systematic racism and stuff. Um, but then also he says that the spirituals is more than dealing with trouble. It is a joyful experience of every affirmation of life and its possibilities in an appropriate aesthetic form. The spiritual is the community and rhythm swinging to the movement of life. Black history then is the stuff out of which the Black spirituals were created. Black history is an experience, a soulful event. And so I think that's also important. It's not spirituals aren't just about dealing with trouble, but it's also, like you said, something to be joyous about, like affirming freedom again and just life and its like again life and its possibilities, as you said. And then kind of moving on to the second question, or yeah, how are they related to God? And in chapter 3, uh, oh, real quick, the quotes that I read from were on page where I was reading from was from on page 29 to 31. And then chapter 3 here is on page 32. Um, Basically, the meaning of God is God as a liberator. And the basic idea of the spirituals is that slavery contradicts God. It is the denial of God's will. To be enslaved is to be declared nobody, and that form of existence contradicts God's creation of people to be God's children. Because Black people believe that they were God's children, they affirm their somebodyness, refusing to reconcile their servitude with divine revelation. And then he says that is why the spirituals focus on biblical passages that stress God's involvement in the liberation of the oppressed people. And so, like, thinking of the Bible, like immediately I think of uh, it's been a while since I took this course, or since I took my Bible course. It's like, is it Exodus? Yeah, Exodus, when God guided Moses to free the enslaved Hebrews. I believe that is how Exodus goes. I don't know, but so it's kind of like the same idea where God is the liberator, and all throughout the Bible, there's other stories too. I believe of God saving those who are oppressed, those who are enslaved, and that's how the spirituals view God as again a liberator, someone or the God is freedom. God is like, yeah, I don't know, but that's how the spirituals relate to God is that He's the liberator. He is.